The first thing Lynn learned on her first night was simple. Never answer the call button for 404. She was a nurse on the night shift at a hospital in Vietnam. The room didn't exist on any floor plan. The elevator skipped it. The building had been built to forget it, but the button kept blinking. Red once every 4 seconds at exactly 4:04 a.m. She walked down the corridor. She found the door. She opened it. The bed inside was empty and warm. The sheets were tucked with a precision no patient could manage. Someone had made that bed like they were still waiting for someone to come home. Room 404 had been sealed in 2020. No patient had been assigned to it in 6 years. No one had ever checked out, because according to the hospital's records, no one had ever checked in. On the nightstand, a photograph. A young man whose eyes had been scratched out of the frame. Someone had hated him enough to erase him, and loved him enough to keep his picture anyway. She traced the date to an old building that had burned decades before this hospital was built on top of its bones. His family never performed the third-day ritual. They never opened his grave. They never called him back to the world of the living. So he never learned how to stop waiting for one. This story comes from Lynn, a nurse who worked that floor. Everything she found, the room that wasn't on any blueprint, the button that kept blinking for a patient who died 6 years ago, and what she discovered in the supply closet at 4:04 a.m. on her last night, is exactly as she described it to me. The call button above bed 404 blinks red once every 4 seconds, and no name is signed into the chart beside it. Lynn's shoes make the only sound in the corridor. Rubber soles on linoleum, a soft squeak with each step, 401, 402, 403, and then a gap, a door frame with no number plate, though the floor plan taped to her clipboard shows nothing here but wall. She stops. The clipboard says 404 doesn't exist. The door says otherwise. Inside, the mattress holds a dent the shape of a body that has been lying there for hours, maybe longer, though the sheet over it is smooth and tucked. Hospital corners, 45 degrees, the fold her grandmother used to make with military precision. A fold no patient bothers with anymore, because no patient makes their own bed. Someone made this one. Someone still makes it. The call button light pulses above the pillow. Red, then dark, then red. She has silenced hundreds of these lights in 4 years on this floor. She has never seen one blink without a patient ID on the wristband scanner, without a name in the system, without a body to belong to it. She checks the log on her tablet, thumb swiping through years she's too tired to remember living. Room 404, sealed 2020. No further entries, no incident report, no discharge summary, no death certificate number, which is strange, because sealed rooms in this hospital are sealed for exactly one reason, and that reason always ends in paperwork. This one didn't. Under the fluorescent hum, the kind that never quite turns off, just dims into a headache, she catches a smell that doesn't belong. Not bleach. Not the copper tang she's trained herself not to flinch from anymore. Incense. Sandalwood maybe, or the cheap kind sold in bundles outside the pagoda 2 streets from her apartment. The kind her mother burns on the 15th of every lunar month for ancestors who never got a proper goodbye. There is no incense burning anywhere in this hospital. There has never been incense burning anywhere in this hospital. Fire code alone would end a career. Quotable line. Someone made this bed like they were still waiting for him to come home. Down the hall, a food cart wheel squeaks. One long groan, then silence, then the groan again, evenly spaced, patient, almost gentle. In, out, in, out. She realizes she has been standing still long enough to count 4 full cycles of it before she understands what it sounds like. Not a cart. Not really. A rhythm too, even for metal on tile. A rhythm with lungs behind it. She should write this down. There is a form for anomalies, malfunctioning equipment, Unlabeled rooms, discrepancies between floor plan and physical structure. She has filled out that form 11 times this year for far smaller things. A flickering light, a locked supply closet, a smell of mold that turned out to be nothing. She doesn't write this one down. Instead, she backs out of the room the way you back away from something sleeping that you don't want to wake. And she pulls the door shut without letting it click, because the click feels like it would mean something, would announce her, would tell whatever is in that bed that she saw it and knows and remembers. The next time the call button for 404 lights up her station monitor, 3:47 a.m., red dot blinking on a floor plan that insists the room isn't there, she doesn't walk down the hall. She doesn't check the log. She sits very still at her desk, hands flat on the counter, and watches the light blink until it stops on its own, the way it always eventually does, the way it has apparently been doing for 6 years before anyone thought to ask why. She never answers call button 404 again, but every night now, at exactly the same hour, she catches herself counting the beds anyway. 401, 402, 403, and pausing, just for a second, at the gap where a fourth breath keeps waiting to be let out. Fingers close around Lynn's wrist before she even sees the hand. Cold, thin, stronger than they should be. And Mrs. Tuyet's mouth is already moving, already whispering, before Ling can pull away. "There is no 4 here," the old woman says. "Not on this floor, not on any floor." Lin looks at her like she's checking a fever. "Mrs. Tuyet has been in 403 for 11 days, waiting on a hip that won't heal right. And in 11 days she has never once grabbed anyone like this. Not the doctors, not her own daughter, not the orderly who drops her tray too hard every morning. Look at the elevator," Mrs. Tuyet says. "Look at any door." So Ling looks, later on her break, standing in the elevator with her thumb hovering over the panel. 3rd floor, 5th floor. The numbers jump clean over 4. No gap, no ghost button. Taped over. Just 3 and then 5 sitting side by side like nothing is missing. She's ridden this elevator 400 times and never noticed. That's the part that unsettles her. Not the missing number, but how easy it was not to see it. Mrs. Tuyet explains it without being asked, the way old women do when they've been holding a thing too long. In Sino-Vietnamese, 2, 4, sits 1 tone away from 2, the word for death. Builders here have skipped the number for decades. The same instinct that skips the 13th floor in buildings half a world away. No room 4, no bed 4, no floor 4 in the parking structure 2 blocks from Lynn's apartment. Though she's never once wondered why the ramp signs go straight from 3 to 5. So why, Lynch says, is there a room 404? Mrs. Tuyet doesn't answer. She just lets go of Lynn's wrist, and the cold stays there a moment after her hand is gone. The supply closet door is where Ling remembers it. Plain, unmarked, the kind of door you walk past 1,000 times without your eyes catching on it. Tonight, the handle turns. It has never turned before. She knows this the way you know your own front door, without needing to test it. Inside, not shelves, not bleach, and folded linen, but a bed, made, waiting. On the nightstand, a photograph, curled at the corners like it's been handled by someone's thumb for years. A young man, maybe 20, hair buzzed close in the flat-top style Ling has seen in her father's old service photos. A cut that says 1990s military the way a uniform would, without needing a uniform. His eyes are gone. Not shut, not shadowed. Scratched out, gouged through the paper with something sharp enough to tear but not cut clean through. So the fibers curl outward like small white wounds. She turns the photo over. A date is written on the back in pencil, faded but legible if she tilts it to the light. She knows the date. Everyone on this floor knows the date. It's the day the old building on this site burned to the foundation, decades before this hospital was rebuilt on top of the ash. Her flashlight flickers once. a warning she doesn't take. She checks her watch instead. 4:03. The numbers sliding toward the very digit this whole floor was built to avoid. And in the second it takes her to look back down at the photograph, the flashlight beam narrows, yellows, and dies completely. The room does not go dark all at once. It goes dark the way a held breath finally lets go, slow, complete, and final. And somewhere in that darkness, close enough to touch, something exhales that isn't her. The silverfish scatter when Ling opens the archive box. Dozens of them, pale bodies fleeing across a folder that reads Patient Records. 1990s in ink, so faded it looks like breath on glass. She doesn't flinch. 4 years on this floor has burned the flinch out of her for most things. But her hand stops moving anyway, hovering an inch above the box, because she recognizes the face staring up from a clipped photograph before she recognizes the name beside it. Same buzzed hair, same young jaw. This copy still has its eyes. Nguyen Van Phuc, the record says, admitted with fever, dead within the week, in a building that stood on this exact plot of land before this hospital was poured over its bones. The date matches the one written in pencil on the back of the photograph in the sealed room. The date matches the fire. She reads the cause of death twice, because the second line under it isn't medical. It's a note, handwritten by someone whose signature has worn away to a smear, listing what the family did not do. No wake at home, no third day right. The words Merkurma sit alone on their own line, underlined once, hard enough that the pen tore the paper. Lin knows the custom the way she knows her own birthday. Not from books, but from her grandmother's voice. On the third day after burial, the family opens the grave. Not literally, not always. Sometimes it's a ritual gesture, an offering, a call to bring the spirit back from the ground, to wander the world of the living a while longer, before it settles into the afterlife. It's how you let someone go without abandoning them. Phuc's family had no third day. The fever outbreak took the whole street before the rite could happen. The old building emptied in a single week, doors locked, bodies moved fast, customs skipped because the alternative was more death. Nobody opened his grave, nobody called him back, nobody told him it was safe to leave. He never got his third day, so he never learned how to stop waiting for one. She's about to close the folder when she sees it. A second sheet, stapled crooked beneath Phuc's record, the metal still bright, still sharp enough to catch the light without a speck of rust on it. Everything else in this box is soft with age, edges gone to lace. This staple looks like it went in yesterday. The name on the second sheet stops her cold. A nurse. Her hospital, her department. Reported missing in 2020, the same year room 404 was sealed. Last logged on a badge scanner entering a corridor that, according to every blueprint Lin has ever pulled, doesn't exist on this floor. No corridor, no door, just a wall and a scanner record insisting otherwise. The ink on this second page is different from the first, darker, wetter almost, like it hasn't finished drying. Though the paper itself looks decades old, brittle at the corners, the way only real time makes paper brittle. Lin touches the staple. It's warm. She looks up, and the archive room's single bulb is swinging, slow and even. Though she never touched it and the air in the room hasn't moved. Somewhere above her, on a floor she isn't standing on, a call button she can't see is turning red. She closes the folder, but she doesn't put it back. She carries it out under her arm, like something that might still be breathing. And for the first time since she started asking questions about room 404, she understands she isn't looking for a ghost anymore. She's looking for someone still waiting to be let go. The match catches on the third strike, and the votive paper curls black at the edges before the flame even touches the folder in Lin's other hand. Like it already knows what she's asking. She kneels at the supply closet door at 404. A small stack of Vang Ma balanced on the tile. Gold fleck joss paper, the kind sold in bundles at the market stall near the pagoda, meant to become real currency, real comfort, real cloth. Once fire turns paper into smoke and smoke finds its way to whoever hasn't eaten in decades. Her grandmother burned this same paper every year on the anniversary of her own mother's death, murmuring names into the flame like she was posting a letter. Lin doesn't know Fuch's spirit the way her grandmother knew hers. She burns the paper anyway. 30 years, she says, not sure who she's talking to. Nobody opened your grave. Nobody called you back. I'm sorry it took this long for someone to say your name out loud. The flame gutters sideways, hard, like a hand passed through it. Except the hallway is sealed. No window for 6 feet in either direction. No vent she can find on the ceiling. She watches the fire lean at an angle no draft could cause and steadies her breath, the way she'd steady a patient, in through the nose. Slow. Don't let them see you're scared. When the flame rights itself, the door is gone. Not open, not ajar, gone. Replaced by a stretch of plain wall. The paint on it yellowed and cracked in a pattern that belongs to a much older building. Layers of color underneath like tree rings. Decades of repainting that this newly built wing was never supposed to have. She presses her palm flat against it. The wall is cold in a way drywall shouldn't be. She doesn't remember stepping through. She remembers kneeling in the hallway with a match in her hand. And now she's standing in room 404. And the space between those two moments is simply gone. The way a dream disappears the instant you try to describe it. The bed is exactly as she left it in her memory, except now the sheet is moving. Rising, falling, in the slow rhythm of a chest-drawing breath, except there is no chest under it, no shape at all beneath the fabric except the motion itself, air pretending to be a body, pretending to be alive. On the pillow, an ID badge. She doesn't need to read the name to know it's the missing nurses. She recognizes the photo, the same tired half smile every hospital ID forces out of people. She picks it up without deciding to. It's warm, not room temperature warm, skin warm, the specific warmth of something that was just touching a pulse. The photograph on the nightstand has changed again. Where there was one face with its eyes scratched out, there are now 2. Fuchs, and beside it, pressed into the same frame like it grew there overnight, a second face, younger, a woman's, her eyes gouged through with the same violent, careful strokes. Lin looks at her watch to steady herself, the way she's done every night this week, and the numbers don't make sense at first. 4:15. She entered this room at 4:04. 11 minutes have passed that she cannot account for. No memory of them, no gap she felt happening. Just a clean 11-minute wound cut out of her night, and somewhere close enough to feel on her skin. Something exhales again, patient, unbothered, in no hurry at all now that it has company. They find Lynch curled on the floor of the supply closet, knees to her chest, mop bucket knocked sideways beside her, and no one can explain why the door was locked from the inside. The morning shift supervisor crouches down first, 2 fingers to Lynn's throat, relief crossing her face when the pulse comes steady. Lynn's eyes open slow, the way eyes open after anesthesia, present but not yet arrived. There is no bed in this closet. There never was. Just shelves, bleach bottles, a stack of folded linen she must have pulled down to use as a pillow, because that's the only explanation anyone offers out loud. No photograph on any surface, no scorch marks on the tile, no ash, nothing to suggest a match was ever struck here, though Lynn's fingers still smell faintly of sulfur when the supervisor helps her up. It's the badge that stops the questions from going further. Lynn reaches for her ID clip out of habit. Patients ask for it constantly, want to see the photo, compare it to her face. and her hand finds only fabric. The clip is still fastened to her scrub top. The badge itself is gone. The little plastic rectangle that has her name, her photo, her employee number, simply not there, as if it walked off on its own sometime in the night. Nobody asks where it went. Exhaustion explains everything in a hospital, if you let it. She signs out, goes home, sleeps through the daylight hours in a way that doesn't feel like rest so much as absence. She almost misses it. The day nurse mentioning it sideways, between a coffee order and a complaint about the elevator, the kind of detail that slides past you unless you're already listening for it. A new admission came in overnight to 404. Quiet one, the nurse says. No family in the waiting room, no visitors buzzing the desk, no chart pulled up when anyone checks the system, just a bed number in the log and nothing behind it. Nobody remembers writing the admission down. It's simply there, the way the room itself has always simply been there, unlisted, unbothered by the fact that it isn't supposed to exist. Lynn doesn't ask who. She already knows better than to expect an answer that will hold still. That evening, a new night nurse takes the floor, young, new badge still stiff and shiny on her lanyard. The kind of nurse who counts beds out of habit because someone trained her to, not yet, because the habit has started keeping her safe. She walks the hall the way Ling once did. 401, 402, 403. At 404, she pauses, the way you pause at a door you don't remember being told about, and pushes it open because that's simply the job. The sheets are already pulled taut at the corners. 45-degree folds, hospital corners nobody on this floor bothers with anymore. Tucked by hands the schedule has no record of employing. She touches the fabric without thinking, the way you touch anything to check if it's real, and finds it warm. Not linen closet warm, not steam press warm, skin warm, the temperature of something that has just finished breathing. The floor plan taped to her clipboard still lists the room as sealed. 2020, no further entries, no explanation, no name. She doesn't call it in. She doesn't write it down. She simply stands there the way Lynn once stood there, learning without being told that some doors don't need to open twice before you understand what they're for. And beneath the sheet, patient as a tide, something exhales, settling in absolutely no hurry to be discharged. If this story stayed with you, I think it was meant to. New stories from across Asia, every week, right here. I'm Haunted East. Subscribe if you want to keep listening.